Clinton, that would be Madam Secretary. Like I mentioned earlier, she's decided or she's declined. I guess that is a decision, isn't it? Declined to endorse legislation that is being pushed or championed by Senator Elizabeth Warren that would break up the big banks. Oh, aren't we surprised? See, Warren and other liberals are trying to get the Congress to reinstate legislation that Hillary's husband, Bill, the first black president of the United States, repealed in 1999. You know, Glass-Steagall. Earlier this month, Senator Warren reintroduced a bill that would require banks to divide their commercial and investment banking. And according to thehill.com, Clinton said when asked about it while campaigning today in South Carolina, quote, I think this is much more complicated issue than to just point at any one piece of legislation and say, well, if we just pass that, everything would be fine. It's a more complicated assessment than just any one piece of legislation might suggest. I'm not interested in just saying there's one answer to the too big to fail problem. We have a too big to fail problem still, and we have to figure out the best way to address it. And I will be talking more about that, but I'm not going to be pointing at any one change and saying, you know, that'll solve all our problems, because I just don't think that is an accurate assessment. That's Clintonese for, look, you stupid sons of bitches, where do you think I get my money? Who do you think is pushing for me to be president? You want me to stand here and cut my own throat? Now, earlier today, Martin O'Malley, who is also running, challenged all of the Democratic candidates to endorse reinstating Glass-Steagall. Hey, Martin, it's one of Bernie Sanders' ideas. O'Malley said, any Democrat running for president who expects to succeed in the general election, I believe, will need to make basic commitments to pass a modern version of Glass-Steagall. Mrs. Clinton said in South Carolina that she thinks the first goal should be to, quote, according to The Hill, quote, to implement fully and effectively, end quote, the 2010 Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform law. Clinton added, quote, that's where I part company with candidates on the other side of the aisle, like Bernie Sanders, right? All of whom want to either repeal it or, you know, stop enforcement of it or diminish its impact. Let's fully implement Dodd-Frank. Let's fully take stock of where the banks are today, because remember, the banks are not the only problem. End quote, Hillary Clinton. The banks are not the only... Okay. She added that, quote, if you go back and look at what happened in the Great Recession, it was mortgage companies, it was insurance companies, it was non-commercial banking entities who were as big, if not bigger, contributors to the collapse. Somebody perhaps needs to explain to Mrs. Clinton nothing. I mean, there's nothing you can explain to Hillary Clinton, but someone might need to cue her in or clue her in that there are a few of us out here who understand the gobbledygook crap that she is saying. What part of the insurance companies are not tied to banks? What part of the mortgage companies are not tied to banks? What part of non-commercial banking entities were not tied to banks? But you see, Hillary understands her audience, and that's what it is, an audience. She understands. She knows she can say this and get away with it for two reasons. First of all, we are so stupid that we will listen to that and go, yeah, insurance company ain't a bank. That's part of it. The other part is she would no more come out against big banks, then I would declare Bernie Sanders a fascist. But the people who will vote for Hillary, and there will be millions of them. This is the thing Bob Alexander was talking about, the willful ignorance turning into just sloppy-ass stupidity. Or is it the other way around? In an interview with The Hill earlier this week, Barney Frank said he did not support reinstating Glass-Steagall. Well, who gives a damn about what Barney Frank says? He's not in Congress. Oh, he was the author, one of the authors of Dodd-Frank. Oh, well, big deal. This is what he told the Hill, quote, I do think further steps are wise, as Hillary Clinton has talked about, for decomplicating some of those large financial institutions. Decomplicating? Now that's an interesting word, Barney. Decomplicating. But he added, but going to Glass-Steagall again and doing that in a uniform way that applies to every financial institution is not the best way to do it. Well, I'd like to ask these people, I'll never have the chance. I'd like to ask these people, though, seriously, these people being these politicians and former politicians, if that's not the way to go, then why did it work for 70 goddamn years? If that's not the way to go. What? Am I missing something? If Glass-Steagall is not the way to go, how's come from the 30s to 1999? Okay, 60 years, 65 years, it worked. Or, no, it didn't? Why in the hell are they asking Bonnie Frank? Look, there is absolutely, there shouldn't be anyway, any doubt whatsoever about where Hillary Clinton's loyalties lie. They are not in the direction or even in the nearby neighborhood of what's best for the American people. Really. Honestly. If you believe otherwise, you do fall into that category that Bob Alexander was talking about tonight, the minions of the terminally stupid. But again, there's only two issues that you need to understand about Hillary Clinton and I say this because of her vast experience. Now, if this were just some half-witted jackass like Tom Cotton out of Arkansas, it would be different. But this is Hillary Clinton. She has been near the absolute nexus of power, destruction, corporatism, death, imperialism. Since when? Since 1991. I mean, she's been right in it. She understands. She knows. Two issues. Her absolute fidelity to the Likudniks, the Zionists that run Israel, and all the trouble that has brought, continues to bring, and will bring in the future. And secondly, her absolute dedication and allegiance to the banking system in this country and globally. That's all you need to know. You gonna vote for her? Of course you are.